Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode here at Beautiful Ashes. I'm your host, Tom, and I'm super excited to have you guys here. And for today's episode, still the same kind of line of thought, breaking down the barriers that are preventing you from actually doing what you know you're supposed to be doing. And so one of those barriers that I found is if you find out, if you look online nowadays, you have this kind of rigid, dictatorial type of motivational speakers who say, you need to be disciplined, you need to do it, and you need to be motivated, you need to move enough, your will needs to be stronger than your emotions, and all this other stuff. And they're very valid, very valid principles that will help you along the way. However, if you don't already have them in place, you can't just do 180 today and actually start having them in place, having not built up the effort or having not built them up over time. Because here's the thing about human beings, we don't just adopt a new habit today. We're not pieces of machine whereby you can just write a piece of code and then tomorrow you start functioning from that piece of code. It doesn't work like that. For human beings, what happens is you have to take small, tiny steps, and then once you do them repeatedly enough, they actually come into habits. And then once you do them long enough, they actually become your daily habits and actually be ingrained inside of you. And even then, it's not always given that you're going to be consistent in all of them, because there are going to be a lot of things that will come in the way to actually stop you from actually doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so for today, what I want to talk about is what consistency really means. And so I was thinking about an analogy to truly kind of paint the picture of what most people say what consistency really is. To actually, first of all, to paint the picture of what consistency is, and number two, to actually break down some of the myths and the misconceptions around consistency. In fact, it's actually only one misconception. Now, I want to start from the myth first, and then we can actually can paint you the picture of what consistency really is from my own discovery. Now, for most people, think consistency is being able to hit the mark each and every single time, each and every single day, without fail. And so if you're trying to be a better athlete, if you're trying to be a better runner, and so what that means is, number one, okay, so there's just a word of caution. There's a difference here between an amateur, that is when you're starting out, and actually when you're competing in athletics. So from here, the point of view that I'm using here is from somebody who's starting out who has no athletic background and is trying to build themselves into be something like an athlete. So the process of becoming an athlete and then actually kind of having consistency in your results or in your practices or your daily kind of routines. And so one of the things that I learned is most people think consistency is being able to hit the mark each and every single day. And so if it's like work, you need to be able to punch in each and every single day. And there are no days off, there are no breaks, there's no sick offs, there's no leaves, there's no I don't feel like it, there's no I'm tired, there's none of that. And so you actually need to do the thing that you're supposed to do each and every single day without fail. But that's the thing. Once you don't start off there, okay? When you start off, you're going to miss more days than you actually planned to, and you're going to feel bad about it, and then you're going to end up feeling crappy about it, and then think all these negative thoughts about yourself, and then it's going to go back into like a feedback loop whereby you're going to put yourself down again and again. Most people tend to give up because of the overwhelm, and even themselves are actually not rooting for themselves because they're busy putting themselves down because of failing to actually hit those consistent points or to actually punch in each and every single day. And so one of the things I realized when it comes to consistency, there are different types of consistencies. And the first kind of consistency is for beginners, whereby you're trying to add a routine or a behavior into your daily lifestyle that you have not done it in the past before. And what I want to debunk about that is, number one, it's not going to be easy for you to actually do it the first time round, and you actually miss more days than you can actually count. Now, if any of you has ever gone to the gym and said, oh, this year I want to look like, a fitness model, I want to gain a certain amount of weight, I want to lose a certain amount of weight, if you actually done that, then you realize that maybe you'll be hyped up and enthusiastic on day 1 and day 2, and then day 3, and then something will happen on day 4, you come back on day 7, and then maybe 2 weeks later you're back, you're out, you come back again, and now you're having pains on your arms and your body and whatever because you aren't consistent enough, and so you give up again for 1 month, and then you come back again for 2 months, and you give up for 3 months, and you come back. And so there's always that kind of loop of up and down, and then there's so many different kind of time intervals in between, because that's the thing about human behavior. Trying to change yourself is not easy. And so instead of being so rigid with your definition of what consistency is, how about adopting a different approach to consistency, which is what I found to be actually productive for me. Now, I'm going to use the analogy of a barbed wire. Now, if you stand at a distance for, let's say, of 100 meters, and you're actually looking at a fence with a barbed wire as a fencing material, you actually see straight lines, okay? From a distance of about 100 meters, if you can actually see that far, what you actually see is you actually see straight lines. You'll not be able to see the knots or the prickly things in the barbed wire that actually prevent people from actually scaling the wire and actually jumping over the fence. And so what happens is when you stand from a distance, you would see those prickly things. What you will see is a straight line from one pole to the next pole, another straight line from one pole to the next pole. Now, I want you to take those straight lines as the time interval. Let's say you give yourself 1 year, okay? And actually supposed to do something consistently for 1 year, okay? Now take those barbed wires. So between one pole and the next pole is between year 1 and the next year, or the start of year 1 and the start of the next year, okay? And then I want you to think about those prickly thingies, those prickly things on the barbed wire as being the actually days that you actually show up and do the thing that you're supposed to do, okay? And so when you zoom in, when you come close to the fence, they're actually very visible, and you find that, okay, so if the distance between one pole and the next pole is a time frame which is like a year or even 1 week, for instance, and then the prickly things are the time that you actually showed up, you actually found out maybe you skipped 5 days, you showed up for 1 day, you skipped 5 days, you showed up for 1 day, you skipped 5 days, you showed up for 1 day, and so there's that different intervals whereby you'd actually hit the mark a few times, but not most of the times. However, if you actually zoom out and actually look at the fence from a much larger or a much higher altitude or a much farther location, what you'll actually see is a straight line. And that's what consistency really is. It's about hitting those few points each and every single time, or hitting those intervals, and those are the prickly things. So every time you see a prickly thing, it's a day that you actually showed up and actually did the thing that you're supposed to do for that day. And so maybe you showed up for today on Monday, and then tomorrow you didn't, and maybe you skipped again until Thursday, and then maybe you didn't show up again, and maybe you showed up on Sunday again, and then maybe you forewent a week and then came back 2 weeks later or something like that. Then you showed up again. And so what happens here is that you actually put in those prickly things on the barbed wire, and you may not feel, or it may not look like you're doing anything, and even in your eyes you're going to feel bad about it because you feel, oh man, I need to be consistent, I need to do these things every single day. But what happens is if you zoom out and actually, if you do it long enough, if you do that consistently, let's say you just said, oh, I'm just going to stick to 1 week, at least 1 episode a week, or if it's publishing on YouTube, or I'm going to do at least 1 workout a week if it's going to the gym, or whatever it is, I'm going to do 1 run around the field if it's working out, becoming an athlete. If you just do that long enough, what happens is if you do it for a period of 1 year, it actually adds up. And so when you zoom out, you'll actually see a straight line. And that's what consistency is, especially for beginners. And then once you notice that you've actually been consistent enough for that period of time, what happens is you'll actually even have the motivation to actually say, hey, and because you actually be seeing progress, you actually be saying, hey, I'm actually doing something here. Okay. And so if you plan to have like 365 episodes in 1 year, and you actually manage to do like maybe 50, guess what? Most people who actually produce podcasts actually stop at the 21 and the third. I remember reading somewhere about the percentage of people who actually give up. And so you find that for the 1% that also go past the 21 episode, and for me, myself, actually gone past the 21 episode. And so what you'll actually find out, even if you do 50 episodes in 1 year, what happens is you've actually done 50, whereas the people who haven't even started, again, not just comparing yourself to others, but you yourself actually done 50. And as you do that, it's going to encourage you to actually go out ahead, because guess what? You're going to notice some progress here and there. You're going to notice that you actually done something. You're going to pat yourself in the back, and actually going to be motivated to start doing something even more. And so that's it for this episode. Remember, consistency isn't about hitting the spot each and every single day, especially for beginners, but it's about hitting it enough times that when you zoom out and give it enough time frame, you'd actually see the impact that that's enough times I've made. And so it's going to be a straight line instead of having gaps. Okay, and so that's it for this episode. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, be sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe button of this episode so it can motivate me. Not that I really need it, but just to give me a pat in the back for doing a good job. And let me know that you guys are still here listening. All right. That's it for this episode. And thank you so much for listening. Bye.